All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, this presentation is being recorded. My name is Brian Seymour. I'm the program manager for the Made in Baltimore program. We are a program of the Baltimore Development Corporation, which is our city's largest economic development agency. The work of Made in Baltimore is aimed at supporting and promoting makers and manufacturers here in Baltimore City and helping to grow the buy local movement in the Baltimore region. We offer business development services and resources to small batch manufacturers, makers, and retailers. We do this through programs like this workshop series, Tools of the Trade. Today, we are here with Kari Miller from Tiny Dog Press to discuss procuring wholesale accounts. Just a little bit about Tiny Dog. Tiny Dog Press is a Baltimore City letterpress and silkscreen design and print company that sells products online at pop-up events and in over 30 retail locations across the US. Kari Miller, the owner, designer, and printer of Tiny Dog, is a native Texan. Shout out to Texas. We love Texas. Who fell in love with the history, grit, and beauty found in Baltimore City. A graduate of Baylor University with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in printmaking, Kari moved to Baltimore to pursue her art while living in a city full of excitement and life. In addition to being a mom, shout out to the mamas, and creative business owner, she teaches at Stevenson University. We ask that you please remain muted through this presentation. We would love to see your beautiful faces if you are comfortable. This is a safe learning space, so there is no such thing as a bad question. When you have a question, please quietly add it to the chat and it will be answered during scheduled Q&A segments. Please do not feel pressured to keep up with note taking. Again, this workshop is being recorded and will be posted on our website at a later date. Again, thank you to Kari. Thank you to our parent agency, BDC. And with that, I am going to hand the reins over to Kari to get us started. So, Kari Miller, everybody.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Some people have already put in the chat bar who you are, your business name, if you have one. We would love to know who all is here so we can support each other. That's one of the big goals of Made in Baltimore. All right. So I am excited to see all of you. I will be keeping my eye on the chat bar here and there. I think it might have just been on my side, but the voice went out when Brian was talking. I also teach at Stevenson University. So unfortunately, I'm a little used to this whole teaching over Zoom after the pandemic, but I'm not always the best. So after each slide, I will skim the chat bar and see if there's something that's appropriate to answer immediately. If not, there will be a question time at the end. But let's get started. All right. So welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about procuring wholesale accounts today. And as Brian did say, I have currently about 30 accounts here in the United States, across the US. Majority are in Baltimore due to my product line. Baltimore tends to be my most popular area, which is great. And I do have 2 stores in Canada. Once again, thank you for coming. All right, here is our meeting agenda. We just did the welcome. Some guidelines on before you knock on the retailer's door, best practices, keeping the relationships healthy, and then we're gonna open mic for questions. I am the type of business owner that you can just ask me anything and I will tell you straight up. My experience isn't going to be everybody else's experience, and I hope that it's not everybody else's experience because I've made many mistakes. And it did take me a little bit of time to get as many stores as I have now. And I know that some people are going to have it a lot faster than I experienced, which would be great. That is always the hope. Okay, so a little bit about me. I have a letterpress and silkscreen company, as Brian had said. I am located here in Baltimore. I am basically female only run me. I have one person who watches my social media for me. I have a 3-year-old, so I really don't have time to be on social media right now. And I also teach at Stevenson University. currently just 1 day a week, but a double load on that day. And I just brought on my first part-time employee who technically is really my nanny. So I can work. I'm paying her through payroll. I figured that that's a good work expense. I am an LLC. I have been open for 9 years. And my biggest goal when I went into business was to never be in debt with my business, so I could walk away if anything happened and I needed to walk away. So I am on the slow growth model where I grow my business as I have the funds to grow my business. And I know that that's not for everybody. Some businesses have to have higher startup, and that's great. It was just the way that I decided to do it due to my family, who are all entrepreneurs. I've seen the stress that high debt load can have on being a business owner. Okay, so we're all 2 years into this wonderful Zoom life, but here's our Zoom etiquette. And I know everyone here is probably quite familiar with this. I will cover the material in a timely manner as my promise to you, because we only have so much time in the day. And I know we're all probably starting to get hungry, or this is our lunch hour. All questions are good questions. I have a child with a disability, so I know we all learn different ways. If something I say is not making sense, I am totally okay with you bringing it up so that I can try to state in a way that might make more sense. I'm also a visual learner, so I know that sometimes someone just talking to you, you're not going to get it as much, which is totally cool. And if there's something that's just really not making sense at the end of all of it, we can grab a cup of coffee and I will bring a notebook and we could do some drawings and figure out how to make some of this work for you. I will periodically scan the chat bar to answer questions, and we all deserve the respect to understand the information presented to us. So I'm 100% about that. Okay, before you go knocking on doors, you need to first take an honest assessment of your product. Are you consistent in your production quality? Do you have the inventory that you are able to process orders in a timely manner? Lately, this is an area that I personally have been struggling with due to supply chain issues. So because of that, I now make sure a lot of my raw goods are here before I even start producing new work. Is your packing professional, your packaging professional? Is your price point covering your cost of goods sold plus your business overhead while staying within a current market trends? And I think the last one is extremely important to keep in mind. As a maker, we all want to be paid more, but the biggest thing is, will it sell for these retail stores for what we are asking for? And are we able to stay as a healthy, viable business with having it at that lower rates? As I'm making some assumptions, but I'm going to just say it out so the assumptions are gone. With a wholesale account, you are being paid 50% of what you normally are paid at a retail rate. Some larger corporations are actually going to probably take a little bit more, or towards the end, I'm going to talk about like having reps or using some other ways to get some wholesale accounts, and they will take a percentage off the top of that too. So some of my wholesale orders, I only receive 40% of profits. So I have to make sure that my pricing is set, though I can still be a viable business by making only 40%. My cards right now are retailing at $5.50 a card, or a box of 5 cards is $20. Cost of goods have gone up due to the pandemic, so I'm starting to look at it's time to increase my pricing. And one of the things that I noticed is that market trends for letterpress cards have gone up to about $6 a card. So I will probably in the next year increase my price to $6 a card to cover the cost of goods that are going up, and also to cover that I am receiving less than a 50% wholesale rate from some of my accounts. have a wholesale sheet, the pricing guide. Everybody calls it differently. I just call it a wholesale pricing guide. On it are your product images professional looking. I allow my retailers to use my product images if they're going to sell online, because I know that my images are actually photographed well. One of my best use of money and time was hiring a photographer. And I did not hire a photographer for my product photography until probably about 4 years ago, because I was convinced, since I got a BFA and I took all those wonderful photography classes in college, that I could do it myself. But there's nothing like what somebody who does this full time, her images are great. And all of a sudden, once I changed over to her professional photographs, I was getting more wholesale accounts and I was getting into more shows. And my life got a whole heck of a lot easier, because getting the right lighting on flat product is never fun. Is your wholesale sheet easy to read for busy store owners? They only have so much time in the day. They're looking at it in between customers or taking care of a child late at night. So can they see what they want, what their customers are going to buy, and how much it's going to be in a quick little glance? And make sure you have your guidelines on there and any requirements that you have for a new retail location. I am going to show you, let me scan the chat bar real quick. Awesome. Okay. I am going to show, stop that, wonderful, my wholesale sheet. After this slide. For your product photography, make sure you have it against a neutral or white background. Appropriate, correct lighting, correct color to the images. I also do custom work. And with my custom work, sometimes my clients want envelope liners that they can pick out some fancy papers from Paper Source. I've had many times, Paper Source is a large company, and I have ordered their paper online, and it is not the colors that are being shown online, because the photographer decided to mess with the colors after they photographed it. So make sure that whenever you are doing your product photography, that you want to keep your colors correct, because the worst thing you can do is send your product off to a retailer and then they're like, no, it looks lime green and this is forest green. My customers are not going to buy forest green because I have a lime green customers. Like, you just never know, but that's really important to keep it what you actually see. I personally print all my stuff, and my ink is hand mixed. So I will have some changes in color it's just part of the handmade process, but I stay within a similar range. Like, there's like a 10% color shift. It's not a huge color shift. If it is a huge color shift and I'm changing, I get a new product photograph taken. Description, basic description, size, cost, wholesale retail cost on there, purchase requirements. Some of you might have where you want people to buy a minimum of 6 instead of just 1. So you need to have that on there. You might be okay with them buying just a one-off. It's what you feel comfortable with. And you being the business owner and you selling your stuff at markets, selling it at the MIB store, you kind of have a good grasp of, does my stuff work where you have lots of different variety, or does it work better where I have 6 of this one candle or this one card, and so that it sells fast enough that people don't need as much variety. Also have a short write-up about who you are, short meaning 2 to 3 sentences. And in that, some important stats. Are you female owned? Are you minority owned? Those kind of demographics, so people will understand how to promote you once they have your product. And a lot of stores right now are looking for specific demographics. All right, my old wholesale pricing guide with my beautiful photographs. They weren't horrible. I thought that they were great. But then if you look at my new photographs, it's just so much more professional looking and a lot easier to really see what's going on. I am happy to email this to anybody who would like just to look at it. You notice I have 2 to 3 sentences about myself. I have my logo at the top, and then I have a couple of sentences on the product itself. I have on there, single card is $250 wholesale, suggested retail is $550. Technically, $275 should be my wholesale rate, but when I did the price increase to the $550, I wanted to give my retailers a little bit of more wiggle room, where they were making a tad bit more money off of me. I was fine at that point, but it's about to become the whole $6 and $3 a card, just because of where my business is and where the cost of goods have gone. Look at the chat bar. How long did it take for me to set up my wholesale sheet? So I did my wholesale sheet as a Word doc, and I have each of these images as copy and pasted into my Word document, and then I save it as a PDF whenever I send it to a new vendor, and I compress it in the PDF so it can email easily. I do not have this as a download on my site, mainly just because I hate working on the computer, and me spending time on my website is the absolute last thing beyond accounting. I will spend more time on my accounting before having to update my website. I don't think that's a good business practice. I should probably put this on my website. I just haven't. But at the same token, I don't know how I feel about having my wholesale pricing out there when people are trying to buy retail on my website. So if I was to put it on there, I might have it under a password protection, which then what's really the point of it being out there on your site? And time-wise, I think it did take me a couple of hours to set it up the first time on Word doc. My wholesale sheets, now it probably takes me like 20 minutes to update it. I try to update it once a year if I have something new or if I'm discontinuing something. And it looks like Andy put on there some recommendations for photography and social media management in the chat bar. There's a website. And yes, I would love to share my photographer with you. Her name is Vivian. I will look up her Instagram right now while we're thinking about it. Nicole has also used her. Vivian Marie Photo. I found her through Mount Royal Soap. And who Mount Royal Soap also used, and I've recommended her to several other people. So I know she's worked with several small business owners in the area. She does product photography for an auction house. So this is what she does every day, is product photography. I've had her do both my product photography and some social media photography for me, so that I have those easy images to just put on social media when you can't think of something else. And Nicole says she's incredible. She is. She also does my family photographs every year for our Christmas cards now, because I love her and she is well priced and works well with everybody. All right. I think I answered some good questions. One more message. Do I remember her pricing? So her pricing is going to be dependent upon how many hours it's going to take her to photograph what you give her, and for her to also give you the images. I felt like she was extremely reasonable in pricing. The first time is going to be a little bit additional, because she's going to give you different styles that you're going to then be like, ooh, I like this one better than that one. And so then she will line it all up. I don't feel comfortable sharing her exact pricing because I don't know how she does her pricing. And I don't want to give you a quote and then it'd be completely different. So I want to respect her pricing guide to be, but I do think that it is extremely reasonable. I've heard some people spend thousands of dollars on their photography. I don't have that in my budget. I sell $550 cards. So her pricing is within my budget of selling a $5 card that I'm making $225 off of. Hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, wrong direction. Okay, so that was just showing you my old and my new. Here's a little bit more about my new. I have it broken down with the different product types that I sell. I sell single cards. I also sell coasters, enamel pens, tea towels, and you'll notice how I have a little write-up about each thing before you see the new product line. And then at the very bottom, I have my wholesale guidelines. I have on there no minimum order because when I was getting started, I just wanted my stuff in a store. And I felt like if once it got in a store, people would buy it and they would keep purchasing it. And so far, everyone, the smallest opening order I've ever done is like $75 because I have a good amount of product that people can usually buy additional. I also like to keep no minimum order for a restock reason because I'm working with a lot of small gift stores and I want them to feel like they can restock me when they need to restock me instead of just waiting and then forgetting about me. I want to be an easygoing wholesaler that is there to support the retail store. That's not for everybody. Some people are, you need that $100 minimum, and a lot of retailers are used to that, and you can do that. My payment, I do require for the first order for them to pay for their first time, and then I put them on a net 30. I find that majority of my local people will actually pay me right when I drop it off. They'll hand me a check. I do have several that I have to go after and send them nice little email reminders. But now I've finally set up in QuickBooks where QuickBooks sends them the reminder, and I just don't even know when those reminders go out. Totally worth the money at this point for QuickBooks to take a little bit off the top so that I get those payments easier. My turnaround, I need to change that. I used to be really small and I could do 1 to 2 days. With the 3-year-old, it doesn't work as well. So it's looking more like 4 or 5 days before I get an order out the door. And I allow custom ordering. So where someone can say, I want this 1 card in a 5-card pack. Normally my 5-card packs are in a mixed pack, but I have one store currently that they like 1 card and that's how they want it. And so I will do that for them. Any questions on my layout of my wholesale sheet? I do not charge a percentage for credit card processing fee because I do find that credit card processing fees, it reduces my tax liability. It's a tax write-off. When I first started off, it was extremely hard to swallow that. But at this point, I'm okay with that and I'm needing those tax write-offs. So that's like a personal thing for you to decide where your business is at. You could tell people check only if you don't want to have to deal with credit card processing fees. Okay, another good thing before you go knocking, for you to know who your customer is. This is extremely important. You need to know who is buying your product. And one of the best ways to know that, if you are on Instagram and you have a business Instagram account, is to look at your stats in your, what is it called? In like the business file. It'll tell you, like, I can go up to a retailer and be like, my average customer is between the ages of 24 to 34 years old, and it's a female majority living here in Baltimore. That's 80% of my Instagram followers. Now, does that mean that 40 to 50-year-olds are not on Instagram? It could be. I could have 40 to 50-year-olds who are not on Instagram that are purchasing my products. But I personally am marketing myself on Instagram the most, so I know that that's who is seeing my stuff the most. And it's really important to tell your retailers that, or to know that, so that you know what retail stores are best for your product. The whole point of the retail store is to sell it. If they buy your stuff and they can't sell it, then they're not going to rebuy from you, and it doesn't help anybody. It helps nobody if your stuff goes on the discount table at a retail store. The next thing was to scout out desired retailers. I made a list when I was first starting out 10 years ago of my favorite retail stores that I shopped at in each neighborhood. And I wanted one in each neighborhood. Then I went there and I went shopping. Whenever I go to a new city, if I have a new city product line, like when I did Philly or DC or Austin, I would go and I would just go shopping and check out all the different stores, all the stationery stores, all the little gift shops. I would buy one small thing whenever I'd go in. I have lots of random cards now because of this. And if I felt like that location felt well, that my products would do well there, whenever I buy that one small thing, I would ask them who their buyer was. And I would be given a business card or I'd write it down. So I'd have that information later on when I would send them an introductory email of who I am. And be social, be active on social media. Social media is the best way to get your work in the face of customers. And I find, like, right now, pre-pandemic, I was trying to get majority of my products through a wholesale account into stores. Because I had a baby, it was so much easier for me to just ship off one large order rather than lots of little small orders to straight up to the customer. Pandemic changed everything. I had gotten to where I was 75% retailers, 25% one-on-one, and then all the retailers shut down. And all of a sudden, I now needed to sell one-on-one once again, and one-on-one only through my website. And that was really hard to do. But I got through it, as we all got through everything. And then everybody started opening up again. And right now I am probably about 50-50. I sell about 50% straight to the customer, 50% to retailers. But my retailers are placing much larger orders than they were placing before. But I'm also thinking, like, retailers just started reopening for me like last fall. So I'm gonna, after a full year, I'll know where I'm really sitting again. I would love to go back to where it's 75% retailers. But one of the most important things, this helps with also the credit card processing fees. The more you sell straight up to people at a retail rate through your website, it covers what you're losing a little bit when you're selling at a wholesale rate, if that makes sense. Like, you iron out a little bit of those fees through that. How do I balance production between your wholesale and one-on-one? First off, there is no balance in life. There's no balance in being a business owner. I don't balance. I try to keep my inventory up where I can quickly ship off orders whenever I like to have no less than 50 of a product in my inventory. But having apparel, I know that that's totally different, because that would make you having a high inventory overhead. Me having paper, I'm able to have that inventory overhead, thankfully. But I'm still, like, trying to produce, like, get my inventory back up from holiday season. It's been really crazy. Like, I made a list of over 30 products that I had to reprint after holiday. And now I'm down to only 25, and we're in mid-April. So there's no balance. Yeah, and a lot of that was because I couldn't get paper. Okay, I thought this was a fun quote. Opportunities don't happen, you have to create them. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is that you just have to get out there and start going door to door. And you don't know what you do today. You might not find success in it, but you might find success years from now. About 6 years ago, I decided I want to be in Whole Foods. So I walked into the Harbor East Whole Foods store, asked who their buyer was. I got to meet the buyer. She gave me her card. We set up a time for me to bring my product line for her to look at it. She was like, oh, this is great. We can sell this. And she gave me their guidelines. And one of their first guidelines was having business insurance. And I was still so small, I didn't have the money to have business insurance, but I was like, okay, I'll go buy it. So I went and bought business insurance. And I'm like, I got everything you need from me. Crickets. Did not hear anything from Whole Foods for 4 years after I bought business insurance so that I could be at Whole Foods. I continued to have my business insurance, just so I was like, oh, maybe this is a positive thing to have, who knows. 4 years later, that person who I met with became the regional buyer, connected with me again, and now I'm in 3 Whole Foods. And you don't know. You don't know with you making these connections. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow. You might have to wait 4 years for that connection to go someplace. But you don't know until you try. And you just got to get out there. We got 2 chats. Yeah. Thank you, guys. All right. All right, so here are some best practices. Do we have any questions on what to do before you go? Before we move on to best practices? All right, so these are best practices. I don't always follow these best practices, but these are what retailers are wanting. And the reason why I don't always follow these best practices is because sometimes you just can't, especially as you grow. But my biggest thing when I was starting is you don't want to oversaturate your market. And by oversaturating, by having your stuff everywhere, even though you think that it's going to be really great to see your stuff everywhere, but then no one buys it when it's completely oversaturated because they find it everywhere. And retailers will stop buying it because you're making them in competition to their next door neighbor instead of further down the street. So do limit who you are selling to. Limit in a walkable block. This one was really difficult over this past holiday season because retailers were excited to get new stuff in, and my walkable block did not work in Remington because we had the Made in Baltimore store plus Mount Royal soap plus Greedy Reeds. So I had 3 stores in a walkable block that were all selling my stuff, but they all sold something different of my product line. I did not really allow them to sell the same thing except for this one Christmas card, that they all wanted this one Christmas card and they sold out, except for Made in Baltimore. They returned some, but that was from the website selling, not from the walkable block selling. So be very, very careful. Other than that, now I was like on pins and needles. Is this gonna work? Are people gonna hate me? And Greedy Reeds and Mount Royal soap are still ordering from me. The Made in Baltimore stores not around right now, so it's okay. But yeah, that was me not doing my best practice. It was okay, it wasn't long-term. So do not pursue a new retail store if you have it in one walkable block. I do have like 3 stores in Federal Hill, but you have to get in the car to get to all 3. I have 2 in Canton, and one of them is now closing down. So I'll keep it maybe just the one that is there. See, we got 2 chats. Sorry, Andy. I didn't mean to call you out, but always do the Made in Baltimore store. Always have your stuff stocked in the Made in Baltimore store. You can't get any better than that. All right, check in with your retail accounts. This is another best practice that I am horrible with because I'm constantly trying to just get my inventory. So I'm afraid to check in unless my inventory is doing well. But you should still try to check in. So periodically check into the people that are carrying your product. I would say every quarter. If they have not placed an order, every quarter to 6 months, depending on your product line. If you are the type of product line that really sells the best around holiday season, like I do my check-in into September, early October for holiday season. For the rest of the year, I will check in probably like middle of April and May. I'll check in again to see if they need to restock. I'll check in January and then like April and May timeframe. January to see if they have any restock from holiday season, just to carry them over. And I know that retail stores, January, February, March tend to be their slow season. So I'm not expecting much in January for them to restock, but they might need to. And then again, like in May, but that's also still their slow time. So I'm not expecting much. Into September, early October is when I really start hitting them up and be like, hey, let's get these holiday orders going. And my emails are typically just checking in to see how things are going. That's it. You might not get a response. You might get a response, and it's okay if you don't get a response. But just so that they know that you're still alive, you're still caring about them, you still consider them part of your team. I will also check in by just going to their stores and seeing them face to face. Develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are two of the surest stepping stones to success. So I told you about Whole Foods and how I got Whole Foods, and it just felt like it was a complete failure because nothing happened for 4 years. My top store when I made my list when I first started was this wonderful store that we all miss and love, was Trove. I thought for sure my stuff would sell so easily at Trove, and I walked into Trove. They knew me as a customer, and I was like, hey, I have product and I want to sell it here. They also said no. They gave me their online piece of paper to fill it out. I heard nothing from them. And I actually kind of became a little bitter because I was like, I'm one of your really good customers. Why are you not selling my stuff? It wasn't until one of their other customers that was not me walked into their store and loudly announced, why do you not have Tiny Dog Press here? And within a few minutes of another customer, not me, asking them that, I had an order from Trove. I felt like it was a failure, but you don't know how these things are going to happen. So doing little pop-up markets when you're getting started is actually probably one of the best things you can do, because you're building up your customer base who are then going to go to these stores that they shop at, and they're going to talk to the owners and be like, hey, I really want this. Why are you not selling this? And that's how you can get into some of the stores. How do I prepare my inventory for holiday wholesale? I print in July for Christmas. And I feel like I'm actually behind the game when I print in July for Christmas. I try to do a 50% increase from the year prior. So whatever I did from 2021 in July of this year, I will start printing in that amount plus 50% more in hopes to increase it. I also offer to my wholesalers, because I can, because it's small little cards. If they purchase holiday cards and they don't sell, I will swap it out with an everyday card in January. Every year, I only have 1 or 2 retailers that actually request that. And so I was completely sold out of holiday cards middle of December. And in January, I got 6 cards back from 1 retailer. Like that inventory meat overhead is not costing me anything to hold on to 6 holiday cards. For them, they know that I'm there working with them and it's a relationship thing. And so they then were okay taking on a little bit more than what they thought they would sell. It wasn't a whole lot more, it was 6. Okay, couple of things about keeping the relationships healthy. You have to keep in mind that the retailers are not your competition. This is a relationship. This is very important. You never compete against your retail locations. Never undercut your pricing so that you gain their customers. You can have sales and promotions, but you need to do them in a way that it doesn't harm your retailers, because your retailers will have sales and promotions too. And they're making a choice to make a little less. Same thing with you. Do it in a nice way. I worked for a small stationery store back in the day that was in Belvedere Square called Simply Noted. And that's how I kind of got used to and learning the retail side of the stationery business. And I remember we did a lot of custom work, and there was a custom binder of a local printer. And she was trying to start out her own custom work. And the owner would never show her binder to brides. And I asked her one day, because I was the manager there, I was like, why do you not want me to show this one? It's a local person. Shouldn't we be supporting local? And she's like, yes, except for the couple times that she has had an order from a local person ordering from this other company, they then go straight to the other company because she will give them a discount if they come straight to her rather than through the retail store. That is horrible, because that other person just undercut their retail store and saw their retail store as competition instead of seeing their retail store as their partner in selling their work. So you need to make sure that your price point works well so that you don't find it tempting to make your retail store into a competition. Does that make sense? Hopefully. You need to support your retail locations. They're supporting you, so you need to support theirs. So become one of their customers. Whenever it's Christmas shopping, I shop at the people that buy my products. Recently was World Down Syndrome Day. My daughter has Down syndrome, and I was doing a presentation for her little preschool classroom. And I bought 12 of this one book from one of my bookstores that sells my stuff, because that's important, that they know that I'm supporting them as much as they are supporting me. I also support them online. I will do little shout outs to the different retail stores on my social media. I have on my social media one of the continual little story circles on Instagram, like all the different retail stores you can buy my stuff. I find in holiday season, customers really like that because they don't want to pay for shipping, and coming and picking stuff up off my porch is a little bit of a pain in the butt for me and for them sometimes. And so they can find who is selling my stuff and they can go directly to them. I will get Instagram messages from people asking me, hey, who recently restocked this one item? And I will tell them. And I if you are doing a double support. When you are buying from my retail store, you're both supporting me and you are also supporting that retail store. So you're supporting 2 local businesses. And that's just the way I try to keep my mindset. It is difficult when you know you're getting only half the price, but you're also doing less work by sending large orders to them. I do have online a tab that says the retail locations that you can purchase my stuff. So I have it both on my website and on my social media. The chat bar. Good question. Okay, here's the question. I've noticed some local retailers will tag the product lines on their social media posts while others don't. Do you prefer to be mentioned or tagged in a retailer's content so that you can share and regram their content? Yes, if they tag you, always reshare. And I do prefer to be tagged so that I can reshare. And whenever I drop off an order for the first time, I will tell them that, hey, if you tag me, I will reshare you, because that's supporting both. I do like to be tagged. I like to know what's out there. But just like we're all humans, like sometimes they just need to get that post done because it's between people and they won't tag me. And you know what? I don't even know, because I'm not scrolling on social media. I don't have time, and it's not the end of the world. So hopefully that answers the question. I do prefer to be tagged. All right. So beyond Baltimore, ways to get into retail stores outside of Baltimore. It's so much easier to get in where you're living because you can do little chunks of time. 1 hour, hey, I'm meeting someone up for coffee in Fed Hill. I'm gonna hit up all the little gift stores in Fed Hill before or after this coffee. But what about if you want stuff in New York City or in Philly? It takes a lot to get over there. And when you're starting up business, having the travel money in your budget is not there. At least it wasn't there for me. One of the good ways I did was out of town markets to begin with. See if my stuff even sells there. And you know what I noticed? My stuff doesn't sell in Philly. I don't know why. I can't sell in Philly, but I can sell in DC. So I'm closing my Philly line. I have one retailer in Philly and I'm selling out of my inventory. You can get large corporate accounts depending on the industry. Sometimes you need a rep to do these large corporate accounts. I found that with Whole Foods, you do not need a rep. You can go to the individual stores and the buyer at Whole Foods can decide to carry you. They have to then request you through their regional buyer. And it's a lot of paperwork. You can do that. I think Anthropology, I think you can submit online if you want a large account with like Anthropology or whatnot. You just have to really do the research on the individual ones. If you decide to go with a large account, you're going to have to start having UPCs. And that is a whole thing in and of itself that I found out. You have to purchase your UPCs and then having them printed. So it's a decision time if you want to have to jump that hurdle. Do I think having Whole Foods is worth it? Some days I don't, because it's a pain in the butt to have to deal with UPCs. And it's just a pain in the butt because, yeah, they met their order minimum at the very beginning, but their reorders are small. And they put me on a deadline. They tell me when I have to drop it off and I can't have back orders. If I don't have it on that day, they're not going to accept it. So those are some of the things to think about with large corporate accounts. They make the rules and you have to go by their rules, and it's not by your rules anymore. Trade shows, depending on your industry, trade shows can be a great exposure. If you're going to do a trade show, I would say go to the trade show as a person. See if you can go. A lot of times you have to be a retailer to be able to actually go into a trade show. See if one of your retailers will let you buddy up with them and go. I attended the stationery show whenever I was working for the stationery store. So I was able to experience that a little bit. Depending on the trade show, it can be thousands of dollars. And I've heard horror stories where, like at the stationery show, you can spend maybe about $10,000 to be in this trade show and you don't get an order. So make sure if you're going to do a trade show, you are ready, your product is ready. You take that really good assessment of, will my product sell? Like, what am I doing that is going to stand out against from everybody else so people want me? And put forth all your effort in that trade show, because that is where you're putting all your money in. Andy asked, when did I decide it was worth getting the UPCs? I decided when Whole Foods said I had to. That's when I got the UPCs. Was there a line you were waiting to cross first? It was someone making me do it. Was my only line. And Whole Foods is the only one that I put the UPCs on. For me, it's a little sticky that I put on my packaging because I offer my cards in a couple of my most popular cards in 2 different color combinations. So that's actually 2 different UPCs. Each color combination has to have its own UPC. So it doesn't make sense for me to do 2 different printing plates. It's more cost effective for me to have it as a sticky on there. So instead, why did it go the other way? There we go. Instead of trade shows, a lot of trade shows are actually closing down since the pandemic, and they have not been as popular. And because of the pandemic, more retailers are going towards online wholesale marketplaces like Fair, which someone had mentioned in the chat bar. It did not take me any time to put up my stuff on Fair because Fair put up my line sheet for me. It took me a little bit of time to just organize my files, my photo files, but they should have been organized anyways. And then they did it all. There are a couple typos in there. I just haven't spent the time to correct those typos. But the most important pricing is right on Fair. Now, if you do an online marketplace like Fair, they take a percentage off the top. So Fair takes 15% off the top of whatever I make. So my stuff is already at 50% minus 15%. I am only making 35%. So that is one of the problems with the online wholesale marketplace. Another one is getting into Fair or there's a couple of other marketplaces that you can apply to. I applied to Fair and it was crickets. It wasn't until a retailer requested me that Fair actually asked me to join. And I found that that was how it kind of works with them. I would love to, at the end when we do the Q&A, for you to share why you love Fair. So far, Fair has to Earth Elements Soapworks. So far, Fair has allowed me to be in other states beyond Baltimore area easily because I don't have to travel and find retail stores. It's through Fair that I have the 2 stores in Canada. I had my first store in Brooklyn, New York because of Fair. But I do have one local person who found me through Fair, and that one's really hard to eat that 15% because I feel like, why didn't I get that local person before they found me through Fair so that I could have the healthier wholesale rate with them? But it is what it is. And I love my new little local store that I found through Fair. We have a really good relationship. Nicole with Keppel and Kismet said it took 3 retailers requesting her before she got the response for Fair. So if you apply to Fair and you hear nothing, don't take it personally. Ask your retailers, hey, request me on Fair, because if they request you and you are a new person, they get free product. So it's on their advantage to request you. You still get paid for that product. Fair gives them a credit towards purchasing your product. So Fair is eating that. And you're now on Fair and available to other people. Another thing, depending on the industry, you can seek out a representative. So a representative is kind of like the online wholesale marketplace, old school style. One person will have product from 10 different companies and they physically go to the retail stores and they show your product to the retail stores, plus these other 10. Some large corporate accounts require for you to have a representative. Talking with Matt with Mount Royal Soap, some of the grocery stores, they can't go straight up to several grocery store chains. They have to go through a representative to get into a grocery store chain. All right. We are now open for open mic. It is 1 o'clock, so we are still here for 30 more minutes. Try to stump me. As I tell my students, make me cry, because during their critiques, my goal is to make them cry. Not really, but we laugh about it. So stump me, ask me a question, see if anything you've been thinking about. Yes, and you can unmute. So Mimi, What is your question?
Hi.
Hey.
I know we've talked about this before. Long years ago, you shared your wholesale sheet with me, and I still haven't got it set up yet. But
It takes forever to just sit down.
Because I think for me, I'm trying to find out, like, well, I have a lot of, like, I do have some gift items like mugs and buttons and bookmarks, but I guess it's just like getting my mind to sit down and kind of determine what products I want to offer and like which designs. And and I've had, some stores reach out and say, do you have wholesale? But I'm just a little like nervous and I don't want to overwhelm myself. So do you have any like advice for like someone like ourselves who are interested in wholesale but kind of have a little reluctancy because it's like, okay, how do I kind of go into this without overwhelming myself?
So I know that you have a lot of different products and a lot of different designs. So I would say pick your top ones and do those with just a few stores. Start small. Take a baby step. So problem with apparel is you have all the different sizes too. Yeah, I would just pick maybe like your top 5 shirts. And maybe, I think your other gift items, are you printing your mugs and stuff? Or are you having those outsourced?
Yes, I'm doing my mugs and my buttons, actually everything.
Which of your items do you have the best cost? Like you make the best money off of? Your cost of goods is the lowest for how much you have it set up for retail rate.
I guess the other thing I have to look at too is like the time it takes me to make some of these things. I guess I have to sit down and kind of determine that. Because like price wise, I think most of them are about the same, as far as cost and the percentage markup or whatever. But what I'm always thinking about too is like how much time does it make me to make these things? Because I'm doing it myself. So I guess that's what I kind of have to sit and see which one will give me, as far as time is concerned, the most effective like turnaround for volume.
Well, and also think about if you are able to start doing production at a higher level, will that enable you to get some new equipment to allow that production time to go down?
Oh, that's true too.
So
that's true. So what I'm thinking off the top of my head is like the t-shirt, because that's what most people like, what they like. And what I think, I sell the most of t-shirts, just across the board anyway.
So if I were you, pick your top 3 t-shirt designs. Make sure that you're going to make money off of it, that you have it where your cost of goods is, less than a quarter of your retail rate, so that you're making your money off of it. Pick 2 of your favorite stores or 2 stores that you think will go well, and just do those 2 stores this year and see how it goes.
Thank you. That's a good baby step. Thanks.
And then if it goes well, after December, add 2 or 3 more.
Okay.
And see how it continues to go. And then you might be like, oh my goodness, I need to outsource some of this. And it's okay to outsource some stuff.
Yeah.
Like my tea towels, I don't print my tea towels. And thank God I don't print my tea towels. I could, but I outsourced that. And those things are selling like so fast that there's no way I could. Yeah. So you need to decide which things to continue to just print yourself. I outsource it to a local company, so I'm still supporting local.
Yeah. And at the top of the year, that's one of the things I wanted to figure out, is to to find it in a way where it's also like, I know it's saving you time and energy, but the one print shop I was looking at outsourcing part of my printing, but it just doesn't make sense just yet. But if I do have the volume, then maybe, I don't know.
If you start with these 2 stores and 3 things, and then once you have the volume, you might outsource those 3 designs and allow your smaller run designs that the ones you're having fun with because you're making new designs, keep those as a smaller batch edition and don't have those as wholesale. You don't have to offer everything you sell as wholesale. You just have to offer what you want to offer as wholesale.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Was it? Okay. Anybody else have questions? Andy.
Hey, Kari. Thank you, first of all. That was a great presentation. I am curious, when you were talking about fulfilling orders for your direct-to-customer online sales, whether or not you've considered working with fulfillment centers to do any of that online order fulfillment, and if not, why not?
You and I had talked about this in the middle of the pandemic.
I know.
I would love to use an online fulfillment center. I do not use an online fulfillment center because my inventory is extremely difficult right now for me to be able to do that. I don't have enough inventory to send off to somebody else at this point.
Got it.
And I think for like, I struggle. So I have an Etsy store, I have a Shopify store, and then I have stuff on Faire. Like, I'm just like on too many online platforms that I feel like my inventory is already split between those 3 online platforms, that then adding a fulfillment center that's physically not here would mess me up even more, because my online platform saying I have stuff, that's not really what I really have in person.
Understood.
So.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah. Nicole at Open Books right now.
I am. So this question actually might end up being for Andy. Sorry, Kari, because the question came from about the fulfillment. Like, what's the threshold? And have you looked at that already, Kari? Do you know if you were to keep this much inventory? Okay. Andy, what was your experience? Is it a minimum of X number of units of this one piece or item?
Not to take up too much time on this topic, we have only worked with one fulfillment center, and they did not have any minimums, but they do charge for storage, basically like shelf space. So the more shelf space you take up, and the longer it's taking that space up, the more you're paying. But they actually didn't require any kind of minimums.
And is this for wholesale? Because part of my issue is that I don't have the time to put things in like neat little silos. So this inventory is for wholesale. This inventory is for when I go out to market. This inventory is for my online shop. It would be great if I could be like, oh, I'm going to do all wholesale through a fulfillment center. And so that's why I was asking, like, is it worth it to do that? And if so, what might be some of the other considerations? But thank you.
Yeah, we personally haven't used it for wholesale, though I imagine that could be useful. We're only doing it for direct to customer right now.
And I would probably just stay with direct to customer, because then you're also losing a percentage. Do you have another cost to consider with wholesale? So that's even reducing your wholesale amount. And since that's what you're getting the less profit margin with, I would do your higher profit margin.
Okay, thank you.
Mimi, did you have another question? Is your hand still up? I'm not sure. Nope. Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't know you had to turn it off.
Oh, I would not have known either. But it looks like Brian has a question.
Yes, I was wondering, what software do you use to manage the inventory that you are sending to retailers? How do you keep track of
I
that?
don't use the software. I use my eyeballs in my basement, in my inventory room. And that's why, a really big reason why I can't do a fulfillment center. Go off my soapbox. Brian, do you still have a question? Your hand is still up.
No, I do not. So I will gently lower my hand.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Anybody else have any questions or any thoughts, comments? Anybody else have any best practices that I did not share that you had found to be helpful? that can be helpful with others here.
Hi, this is Kelly. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hey Kelly.
Hey, so thank you for the information. This has been very helpful. Just to give you insight on Fair, I use Fair as like one of the wholesale marketplaces that I use, a lot. There are other sites like Abound is one. I really don't get too much traction on there. But Fair is pretty much my predominant website. But one of the things that I've kind of, as you kind of learn how to maneuver the system so they're not taking a commission from you. Like, let's just say if you're scouting, I don't know, scouting a store or something like that, you can actually send them. There's a Fair direct link that links directly to your store, and Fair doesn't take a cut out of your commission if the buyer purchases that, clicks that link to make a purchase. Let's just say if the buyer forgets to click the link, you can always go through customer service and request a fee adjustment there. But like you said, I've been able to reach like customers and retailers in Canada through Fair. But a lot, when I use the direct link, I've noticed that requires some legwork on my end. I too have a 3-year-old, so it gets crazy. It gets crazy really quick. So just trying to find that time of somebody that can, that's another job within itself, wholesale management, like retailer management. But that was really great advice you gave with the wholesale piece, the whole foods piece. As far as going in, I know I had talked to Sam and Matt, and they gave me some advice in that area with UPC. So that is great advice. Sometimes you just have to walk in, but Fair, I like Fair. I mean, I've heard from others that it's hit or miss in that area. So
Yeah, I kind of treat Fair like if they send me something, they send me something. So I don't really put too much effort in it. And it probably would do better if I put more effort. So I'm glad to hear that it's working well for you.
Yeah, and you can always send people the link. And then too, you can, because I'm in the process of updating my line sheet, a lot of times it's just helpful for me just to send them the link because all of the products and things are there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not putting additional pressure on myself, like, because that's yet another thing that I have to do. So you get it.
Yes, so many things always going on, working till midnight.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to murder your name, Corinne, Corinne.
Girl, you know me.
I know, but I'm horrible with
Corinne. It's fine.
Corinne.
So it's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see a person in face.
Yeah. So I think, is there still the Etsy strike this week? This is not necessarily a wholesale question, but I'm wondering if there's a lot of different makers I follow who they sell on their sites as well as on Etsy. I know other makers who just stay on Etsy, period. And are you just kind of want to get an idea of what you see happening there, if you've had issues with counterfeits popping up there, or tell us your honest opinion.
So I have a love-hate relationship with Etsy. I do have my store on vacation this week, but I didn't put in there. It was because of the strike. But when I saw that, I was like, I'm fine taking a week off. Personally, with me and Etsy, that's where I get majority of my custom work. But majority of my cards and stuff, people come to my Shopify site, which I like. I would love to leave Etsy just because I don't like how they've changed all their accounting stuff. I feel like it's not, and they were constantly giving everybody free shipping. When I'm doing my sales taxes, like, how did this person get free shipping? Like, I'm paying more in shipping to get it to them than what they bought from me, which I found to be also the case with Amazon Handmade. I made zero money on Amazon Handmade, so I left them as well. So I would like to get rid of Etsy, but it is where I do have some of my custom stuff because their conversation is so much easier than sending me a conversation through my website. So I have a love-hate relationship.
Gotcha. Was Etsy one of the first places where you put up your products?
Yes. So I first started on Etsy, and then I think about 4 years in is when I added Shopify.
Okay.
And it took a while for my Shopify to have more sales than my Etsy store. And now I do a lot more on Shopify than I do on Etsy. So I'm feeling like it's time that I can close Etsy if I can figure out the whole custom line.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Mimi, did you have some comments?
Yeah, I had a question about, have you ever done a wholesale with a store or a shop, and then for some reason the relationship didn't work out and you had to end it?
I have not ended it. I've had stores that have never reordered again. And I think that that would probably be more of the direction that I would try to go. I try to keep the relationship healthy. This doesn't mean that I love all my retailers. Some of my retailers, I have oh great, I got another order every now and then, which is Whole Foods sometimes. I'm like, joy, I got another Whole Foods order. It's a pain. But I personally haven't had to end one, no. I think that they would end it before I would end it if it's not working on their end.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense, because if the products aren't selling in their store,
I
then
was just curious if there was ever someone that was like, you know what, this isn't really vibing out, but that does make sense. I mean, that's actually good that it works out that way. You never have to be like, look, I'm not selling you anymore, so.
like one of my stores, there's another store that I know my product would sell a whole lot more that's in a walkable distance. And so I'm like, I could be making more money in this neighborhood than I'm making now, but I'm not going to end the relationship with the other one because they've been with me the longest. So I'm going to stick with them until they are finished. And when they're finished, giving a good 6 months after they're finished, then I will approach the new store. Andy, did you have a comment?
A question. Do you, back kind of to the tax question, do you require any additional licenses, permits to sell wholesale versus retail? And what are the different kind of like tax implications of that? Like, for example, sales tax.
Okay, so you don't require any additional. You should already have your sales and use tax ID if you're selling direct to a customer. A wholesaler is supposed to show you their retail license showing that you don't have to charge them sales tax. So whenever you have a wholesale account, you don't charge them any sales tax. So then whenever you're doing your sales tax reporting, you notice it's like, how much money did you do? And then how much is taxable? That amount is only to your direct customer. That's not any wholesale. I don't trust QuickBooks personally, so I print off every quarter, every customer that made a purchase, and I write through WS for wholesale, MD for direct customer in Maryland, OUT for someone out of state. And then I hand figure out my sales tax, just because I don't think QuickBooks does it right all the time. Does that answer your question, Andy? Okay. So we have about 8 more minutes if anybody else has any questions or comments on what you've experienced in getting wholesale accounts. One of the things is to continue to be in networks like this. I know that because of this network, I have many friends now that whenever I go see retailers, I'm like, oh, are you selling Presence and Grace also? Which, Kia, I am hoping that you do get some orders through different people because of that. This is what it is, you know, we have to help each other. And I'm so happy, Ashley, to see your face. I follow you and I love your work. You do great illustrations. So thank you for being on here as well. And I'm excited to get to know the rest of y'all. I wrote down what y'all put in the chat bar. But yeah, you can reach out to me. I do not mind any questions when it comes to business. I know some business owners are like, well, I did lots of research on this. I want to protect it. No, that's not me. Ask me. You can come and hang out at my bonfire with Nicole and we can have some wine. And also Kia, you need to come. We need to have a girls' wine night.
I was just about to say, I never knew about this.
because it's only been once in a really good blue moon. Nicole, did you have
The
a
date that it's when the stars align and the schedules work out. I just wanted to say that first of all, thank you for coming on and sharing. Like, you are a wealth of knowledge. I've personally gained so much since, I don't know, when did we start working together? I don't know. It's been since the start of the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was an aha for me was about the walkable block, because since I've been on FAIR, so I have been like really pounding the pavement when I go to a small, especially a area that's outside of Baltimore, and it's like a strip with a lot of small shops. Like, I'll walk in and talk to them, and I blasted them with like my FAIR link. And hearing you say that, I was like, oh my gosh, I hit up 2 boutiques that are across the street from one another. Fortunately, only one bought, but now I know not to pursue the other. So that was a good nugget. Thank you.
You can also, if that other one does, you could reject the order and send them a message and be like, you're too close to one of my other retailers. But yeah. That's why I always just ask for a card, and I will send an introductory email with my line sheet to my top choice. And then I'll give a couple of weeks, and if I hear nothing, then I'll send an introductory email and a line sheet to my second top choice. And I'll go down the line whenever I hit up a new area.
I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that you you were intentional about being like a debt-free business. So have you ever had to turn down any wholesale orders because of the volume or because of not having the resources, because I know some businesses, because I think Oyen, but I don't know if they borrowed money, but I know they got like a Target order and they had to like fulfill that. So I was just curious.
I think if I get to the point where I'm getting a Target order, I will probably take a business loan to make that Target order, because I know that that's going to increase me across the whole nation, and a lot more is going to come in. I have credit cards, and I do use my credit cards, but I pay off my balance every month. Sometimes, like in October, when I'm starting to really ramp up my inventory overhead, I might not pay off that credit card till the end of December. But December 31st, everything is zeroed out. And that's how I keep myself as debt-free. There's been some years where everything didn't zero out until December 31st. But I usually try to zero it out earlier than that. And I really hate paying interest. So I really try to do it every month. But yeah, I have not had yet to reject a wholesale order because I'm still kind of small. I had to reject an order off of FAIR this past yesterday, which I thought was funny that you're asking, because they wanted 200 coaster packs by Monday in their hand. And I was like, it's Easter. No, that was $1,000 I said no to, because it's Easter and I do need to take my 3-year-old on her first Easter egg hunt. And that is worth $1,000 right now. So I don't always say that. I normally work both Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, boundaries, right?
That was my boundary. Yeah. If this was last weekend, I'd be like, oh yeah, I could pull an all-nighter for that $1,000 because I'm now paying my nanny on payroll, but not this weekend. So. And that's one of the things, like, we just have to know. I'm the worst about boundaries. My poor husband, my poor family, especially in December. I feel bad for them. They don't see me much. But every year I tell myself it's going to be better. This year we did get the Christmas tree the first week of December. It didn't get ornaments until the night before Christmas, but that's okay. We still had a tree.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so impressive. I'm working on getting my debt down now, but it's like, it's possible. So thank you for sharing that.
It is possible, and don't hate yourself if it doesn't happen immediately. And then once you do get it down, you'll notice your savings start going up. And is where you start feeling good, is when you see your savings account go up and you know that you have that cushion. So we got 2 minutes. Any other last questions or comments?
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yay, thank you for coming.
Yeah, I was saying thank you so
I
much.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just time for thank yous all around, Kari. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anybody want to come over for a girls or guys, Andy, Brian, y'all are allowed to come too, for wine around a fire pit. Figure it
Yeah.
out. Send me a message on Instagram and we'll figure it out and we can discuss anything business if you want, or nothing business. So, thanks everybody for coming and spending your lunch hour with me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
Thank you.
thank you so much. We are going to stop the recording process in a second, but again, I want to thank you so much, Kari, for this incredible presentation. And thank you to all of you guys for giving us your time today. Again, this workshop will be available on our website in the coming weeks, and you can head over to madeinbaltimore.org to check out some of the previous workshops. Thank you again to our parent agency, Baltimore Development Corporation. Thank you all for running amazing businesses and giving us your time. And yeah, I hope the best for all of you in your future endeavors, and can't wait for us to convene back here for our next workshop. So stay tuned to our newsletter to see when that is.